In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your axle on your Mazda 3. It's located behind your wheel. Using a 21mm socket, we're going to take off our lug nuts. Make sure you hold on here. Make sure that wheel doesn't fall off on you. Take off your cotter pin using a pair of wire cutters. It's usually the best tool. I'm going to bend it back. And then you're going to grab it by the head of it. And pry it out. Using a 17mm socket, I'm going to take off this nut. Next, we're going to bang right here to free the tie rod from the knuckle. I'm going to hold the stud from spinning with a 16mm wrench, and I'm going to use a 14mm socket to take the nut off. You put your ABS sensor over there and remove the top part of your sway bar link. Now we're going to disconnect our ABS sensor by pushing in on that tab. Give it a good wiggle and unplug it. I'm going to set this off to the side. Using a 32mm axle socket, I'm going to take our axle nut off. Alright, it's good to check. Make sure your axle is free. Ours is. If it's not, you can put like a punch in that middle part there and just give it a good whack. Usually frees it up. Put a little penetrating oil in there. All right, using a 14mm socket, I'm going to take off the nut off this pinch bolt for the ball joint. I'm using some locking pliers to get this nut off. There we go. We're getting our bolt out. I freed it up. I'm just applying pressure and using some locking pliers on the other end to help pull it out. There we go. So after you get your pinch bolt out, you're going to want to separate out on the knuckle this little split here to allow the stud to come out. So you're going to use a cold chisel and just separate that out as much as you can. And then once you get that separated out, you can try using this exhaust clamp trick where you take your pry bar and you hook it up to this and then you yank down. If it doesn't come out after you've separated out this little split here, you're going to want to use one of these, and that's going to push it out like this. Now you can take your pry bar put it through the exhaust clamp and pull down. Now that you've freed your ball joint, you're going to take out your axle. There we go. So now you've taken your axle out. You're going to move this to the side. And we're going to go underneath and we're going to pop out the other end. I like to put a bungee on the other end of the axle. When I'm trying to pop it out, it just takes the weight off. And if it goes out fast, it won't land on the floor or on you or anybody around you. Be careful not to break that seal on the transmission as you pry the CV axle away. There we go. I use 2 pry bars, one on each side, to pop it out. Now we're going to take our bungee cord down after I lower the vehicle. Make sure your ABS sensor is out of the way, your brake hose, your sway bar link and tie rod. And then take off your bungee cord. Make sure you have a drain bucket below and catch any fluid. And you can take out your axle. I'm going to put our axle in. Make sure your opening is on the bottom for your spring clip there. It'll help get it in there. I'm going to line it up. Once you know that you're engaged, the splines are engaged with each other, you can tell that by turning the wheel on the other side, such as this. If your axle moves, then you know you're in. So now we got to get it past that spring clip, C-clip, and I'm just going to bang it in with a mallet. Make sure you use a rubber mallet. Our axle's in now, so we're going to spin off our nut. Set that to the side and remove our bungee. Again, the bungee cord is optional. You don't have to use that if you don't want to. I just find it easier. Just going to pull back with my socket. Next, we're going to pull our knuckle out and feed our axle in, or get it ready to go in. Make sure you're lining up the spline and it fits in nicely. Once you feel like you're lined up, you can get your pry bar in here and pull down on your lower control arm. I'm holding the pry bar with my leg. You can have a friend help if you need it. Axle's going in nicely, and now I'm going to push in on the knuckle. Line up my ball joint. So once your ball joint's lined up and a little bit in, you can put your axle nut on. Just gonna hand tighten it for now. All right. Now you're just gonna push on the knuckle until it goes in. And use a pry bar again if you need to push it up. And now we're gonna feed our bolt through. So when you're lining up your knuckle and your ball joint for the bolt to go through, make sure that you see this little, it's like a, you're gonna see that it's not gonna fit here or here. It's only gonna fit if that groove is where it belongs for the bolt. So as you're wiggling your control arm up and down, make sure there's enough room for that bolt to go through. So if I had it up too high, the bolt's not gonna fit because you can see that this piece is not lined up with the bolt. Now I'm gonna feed my bolt through. Like that. That way you're not fighting with it. Once you get it through, you can just tap it the rest of the way. And get your nut started on the other end. Now we can put our top part of our sway bar link in. You're going to put your bracket in and line up your stud to go through. You may have to adjust it a little bit or turn your wheel a little bit to get it in. Put your bracket on and your nut. Let's put our tie rod in. You're going to turn your knuckle so it lines up. And put your nut on. I'm going to snug it up and then torque it. We're going to tighten this to 40 foot-pounds. And once you get there, you're going to see if your cotter pin fits through the hole. Ours does, so you don't have to go any further. If you find that it's not, then you can go tighter till you see the hole line up. Don't go looser. All right, so you're going to put that through. You're going to put the top over that and then put this one around the side. If there's too much excess, you can cut it off or bend it down more. We're going to use a 16mm wrench on the back side to hold that stud from spinning, and we're going to snug it up with a 15mm on the nut. Once you snug it up, you're going to torque it to 50 foot-pounds. You can plug in your ABS sensor now. All right, we're going to snug this up. Once everything's snug, we're gonna jack up the control arm to ride height. I'm gonna use my rubber hockey puck here so I don't slip. If you have to do this at home, you can always put your exhaust clamp here to hold the pole jack from slipping, or if you're on the ground, you're gonna wanna put something to keep the jack stand from slipping as well. So you could use your exhaust clamp for that too. And this last one is 50 foot-pounds. You could lower your pole jack or whatever you're using. I'm going to take these two bolts down. These are aftermarket. I don't know what you guys have at home, but it's probably something similar. If you lost a lot of fluid when doing your CV axle, you're going to want to top it off. Use your manufacturer's recommendation as far as the oil is concerned. We're going to use a 23 millimeter wrench or an adjustable wrench if you don't have one to loosen up the plug. At this point, you may have some fluid coming out. If you do, just let it drip till it is a slow drizzle. You want to change your washer or gasket that's on the plug. If you don't have any fluid coming out, then you're going to want to put some in. So I have my washer on my plug, and now I've filled up my turkey baster tool here, or suction tool, and I'm going to put it in. You're going to fill it until you see it dripping out. Okay, so I'm starting to see it drip. I'm going to let that run off, and once it stops, we'll put the plug in. All right, so now that it's just slow dripping, I'm going to put the plug back in. And we're just going to snug this up. You don't have to like crank it down or anything. Just tighten it up. Just careful of that. Clean up your mess, and you should be good to go. Now we can put our splash shield back on. Make sure that your pry bar is holding your wheel from spinning by propping it up against the studs so the wheel doesn't spin as you try to torque. We have it pressed up against the floor. We're going to torque this to 200 foot-pounds. We're going to install our wheel now. I like to walk the wheel on. When you're tightening, make sure you go in a star-like pattern. We're going to torque our wheel to 85 foot-pounds in a star-like pattern. Now you're going to want to take your vehicle down to your local alignment shop to get it aligned.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.